And we're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Bookish Brigade. Speaking of Bookish Brigade, Bailey and I have been thinking, which sometimes isn't always a good thing, but we've been thinking. And, y'all, we're thinking about changing our name. I know we just started this podcast, but now is as good a time as any. Because we've realized, as we've done more podcast episodes, that we want to talk about so much things other than just books. We will still talk about books, but Bookish Brigade kind of sounds like it'll only be that. So, stay tuned for that. We're browsing ideas right now.
Yes, definitely looking for something fun.
Yeah, inclusive of all the things we want to talk about. Yeah. Because one thing about us, we can talk forever. And that's not according to contrary belief. A lot of people that know us might think that we're not that chatty, but we are pretty chatty. Room with
you and I.
Yes, we are pretty chatty together. We can just keep going. So actually, before we talk about what we're going to talk about today, I just looked at something. So do you remember? And then for those of you watching, I bought a Fruit Loop candle a while back, and it smells so good. Like, I'm not even gonna light it because it just aesthetically looks so good and it smells so good, and I just want it to look good. So this is the candle.
It's gorgeous.
It's so
I would
cute.
eat that candle.
Dude, me too. It's on my bookshelf. Smells like Fruit Loops and vanilla in the best way possible. Now, my brother Jordan, whose room I'm actually in right now, smelt this candle on my bookshelf, and he really wanted it. He loved it a lot. And so one day, like I said, y'all, I always leave this on my bookshelf. One day, I come home from work, and I'm a very routine person. Like, if something's out of place or someone's been in my room, I just know something is always off. I walk in my room, I look at my bookshelf, and I immediately notice that this is on my bookshelf. This is not this. Sure, this may look like, I mean, they both look cute in their own way. This does not smell like that. Bro tried to... He bought one, and he didn't buy the right one because he thought he could just buy whatever. Bro bought a random cheap one off of Amazon and tried to switch it with mine, hoping that I would not notice.
They look so different.
They look different and they smell different. Like, don't get me wrong, his looks cool, but mine smells way better. Like, it costed way more too. Anyways, I ended up buying him one of these, but it was just funny how bro tried to switch up on me.
That's funny.
Like, immediately no. All you had to do was ask me, bro. I would have bought you one. Okay, do you want to let everyone know what we're going to be talking about today?
Today, we are going to be talking about, and I might say this wrong, McKamey Manor.
Yeah, it's either McKamey, I think it's McKamey.
McKamey Manor?
I think.
The most extreme haunted house?
Yes.
But I don't know that I would call it a haunted house.
I 100% agree with you there.
Torture chamber.
Yeah, basically.
Seen it called that a couple of times.
Yes.
You actually know probably quite a bit more than I do. I started kind of watching some stuff yesterday into today, and I learned that it's a pretty controversial topic.
It is.
Because of the lack of haunting and non-lack of torture.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I love scary movies. I've been like that since I was a kid. It's one of the things my dad and I, bond over. So I probably honestly got that love from him. I just love spooky stuff. And so I remember being a kid and going on YouTube and trying to find any sort of haunted, anything. And I did watch a lot of stuff that were very haunted, and I watched a lot of Ghost Adventures and things like that. And yeah, one day I came upon McKamey Manor, and watching it, I was like, This, it's classified, if you Google it, y'all, it will say that it's a haunted tourist attraction. But there's nothing haunted about it. It's the owner, who we'll talk about in a little bit, but the owner basically is trying to provide that haunted experience, but it's in forms of torture. It's nothing spiritual. So that's why you guys will understand later, if you haven't heard about it, why it's such a controversial thing. So do you know much about his name? The owner is Russ McKamey. Do you know much about him?
I learned a little bit about his personal life, and then I learned a little bit about his history with his workers.
Yes.
I know, and when I say his personal life, his divorce, or I guess his breakup with his girlfriend that he had.
Oh, I actually don't know about that.
So why don't you start
Okay.
and kind of talk about what you know, and then you're probably going to tell me things that I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and you will too, because like you just said something about a divorce and girlfriend, and I don't know much about that part. So we'll start with Russ himself, and then we'll go into like the contents of what experience he's trying to create. So Russ McKamey, I know that originally he started this haunted tourist attraction in 2001, which was actually the year that I was born. So, bro's been doing this forever. But in 2001, and I believe he started this up in San Diego, California, which he did. And when he started off, so Russ was in the Navy. He's retired from the Navy, but he went to college for like theatrics, and he's always loved to entertain. And he likes like spooky stuff, horror-ish stuff. So he kind of wanted to create like a haunted house. And he would do it haunted. He would do it out of his own home in San Diego, California. And starting off, from things that I've read, it wasn't anything crazy. I mean, it would maybe be like a bunch of kids chasing you around with a chainsaw. Just things like that. Like, you weren't really touched. Like, it was just, I don't know. It just was kind of basic. And then progressively over time, he would also post these videos on platforms, and a lot of his viewers were telling him that they wanted more. Like, this wasn't scary enough. And Russ, being the entertainer that he is, he wanted to produce more, and he kind of took it as a challenge. And so over the years, I believe in like, once it started to get into like the 2010s and 2014s, it still wasn't crazy, but he was starting to push the limit to where when he was like applying for like certain things legally, and he was still in California at this point, they were giving him like a lot of pushback. And I think at one point they put a cease and desist out for him. And so he ended up moving to Tennessee. And I believe that's where it's still at today, in Summersville, Tennessee. He has another location in, I think, Alabama. But it's mainly the Tennessee location in 2017. And he hasn't been shut down or anything like that. He's still doing his thing. But when he first started, he was only doing it, I think, once a month. Or no. Once during an entire month out of the year. Now, I believe he does it like every weekend.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole year. So he's made a living out of it, but the things that he does, which we'll talk about later, it's gotten a lot more questionable and very extreme. So that's basically, I believe, what I know about him.
So I guess, and I was trying to kind of find like in the middle, like, because I felt like I kept seeing things that were not very fond of Russ.
100%, yeah.
That seemed to be the majority of it, but there's also the people who are like, you know, you sign up for this, so you can't really hate on the man who's giving people what they're asking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
But like, I guess recently, and I wouldn't say recently, but in the past couple of years, he had a girlfriend and they split up. And when they split up, she took all of the props because she had bought them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she took all of the props. And so he had to like basically rebuy all of the props he needed. Because yeah, she took them, and because she was like, I bought them all, so I'm gonna take them all.
Yeah.
And so I don't know exactly when that was. I think it was probably a few years ago. And then I also saw a couple of things that were kind of dogging on Russ, saying that he's not really doing and I don't necessarily agree with this, because you're signing up to do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that he doesn't do it for the torture, he does it because he likes to humiliate people.
Maybe. Yeah.
But these people are signing up for, like, there's a waiver.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that there are people who worked for him that no longer work for him and don't want to be like associated with him, because he can be, I guess, pretty like vicious with some of the, I guess, customers, if like people who come to do the haunted house. It was hard to find like a whole lot of stuff about him. I know that he takes people who are like journalists very seriously. Like if he looks into you and he finds out that you're a journalist, or you like do anything online, like he wants to know if you're specifically coming to the house just to like report on the stuff that's happening there.
Yeah. So Russ, like I said, he's like an entertainer, but he actually, like, once it started to blow up and get a lot more attention, he has like a group of admins on his Facebook account, because I think the wait list to participate in this manor, from what I've read, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's usually between like 15 to like 25,000 people who are on this wait list. But in order to join his Facebook group, he has admins that are constantly like looking to make sure it's not somebody who's just trying to like troll, because apparently he's not very receptive to negative feedback, or if you're somebody who's maybe not even negative, but you don't necessarily support him. I've heard that his ethics are very like questionable in that regard, and that he'll send people to like attack you or throw hate. I don't know if he's still, when I say attack, I mean like online. Yes. Y'all, by the way, if you hear like thunder or anything, there's a storm brewing outside, and you can hear it and I can feel it. So I'm sorry for that if you can hear that.
Hopefully the power doesn't get funky.
Dude, I know. Especially while we're talking about this, right? But yeah, like I've heard when it comes to that, he can be very, that's really why this is controversial, because it's just very, his ethics are constantly questioned. Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of his backstory. Was that everything that you had in regards to like about him?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was pretty much all I learned about him specifically. Not a whole lot since last night. So,
and one of the things, so that is like a big question mark to a lot of people, is for most haunted houses and haunted attractions, you pay to enter. He does not take any form of financial payment, which leaves the question to how he's making his income, in order, if he's doing this every weekend all year, like how he's making his income. All he requires from you is a bag of dog food that he'll give to his animals or to like an animal shelter.
Yeah.
So
I think that might have changed though in the past couple of years.
Like now you have to pay?
I think I heard that, but I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, for most of his, I know for sure for most of it, I don't know about currently, but he's only required a bag of dog food. I'm pretty sure it's still that. I haven't seen a single thing where you have to pay anything. I've seen like you donate a bag of dog food and then you wear like a Halloween costume sometimes.
Okay, so it is still a bag of dog food for McKamey's pets. But it does say back in October of last year that there were people who had mentioned that if you curse while it's happening, so like if he'll dock you $500.
Yeah, right. So
okay,
for people who want to do the so this haunted house can last anywhere from like almost like 10 hours. Now, the thing that's like a gray area with this haunted house is a lot of people say that, like, I don't know, he isn't very, the rules are very kind of like gray, and he can appear to be somebody who might not follow his own rules, or like, I don't know, like what he lists isn't like what it is. So
Yeah.
the prize is supposed to be, if you last the full, I think it's 8 or 10 hours, you get $20,000. There has not been one person who's ever completed the entire thing. I think the longest somebody has ever lasted was 6 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah, has been 6 hours. So that's pretty nuts. And here's something that I wanted to say actually about a point that you brought up earlier, is because this is why it's controversial, is a lot of people, like what you said, it's kind of like, well, you're signing up for this haunted house.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of what's to be expected. So why are you like, because there's a waiver that people have to sign to. I think it's like a
40-page waiver. That tells you that they can cut your hair, they can pull out your teeth, they can tattoo you, they can pierce you, they're going to waterboard you. Like, they tell you these things up front. And then I think he does this new one now where it's personalized.
Yeah,
so when
he
you
has like a questionnaire, right, that you fill out.
And you put your own fears in there, and you tell him what you're scared of. Like, you're giving this man all the ammo. You're signing a waiver. You're telling him what you're scared of.
Right.
You're
and
signing up for this.
That's why legally people are like, well, why is this still open? And it's because people are signing, like, it's a choice, you know?
Yeah.
He's not like forcing anybody to do it, and that's what makes it, even though it's still very questionable in regards to the ethics, that's why it's such a controversy.
Yes.
Controversy, like a Hershey. Controversial. Yeah.
I've heard that, like you were saying earlier about his ethics and how there are certain things that they'll put in the waiver, like that safety stuff, like, but they don't always seem to follow through. One thing that I read about a lot, it seems, since last night was the safety word.
Yes.
It seems like they don't always listen to the safety word. You have to say it a couple of times before they actually do it. And, like, stop.
Yeah. Well, what I read from that is he used to believe, I don't know if he's changed it now, if he's, like, strictened up on it, but, like, I think I watched him say on a, like, interview that, like, having a safety word is, like, weak or, like, soft. So which is crazy. So, yeah, that's one of the things which doesn't surprise me. If you watch a lot of his, like, interviews, he doesn't seem like which you should. I feel like you need to follow that. Like, if someone has a safety word, then they want out, you shouldn't play with that. Like, no. Just let them go. So, let's talk about some of the things they do in this quote-unquote haunted house. And to begin with, I actually want to talk about a specific... You guys can find on YouTube. He posts some of these videos. Other people post some of these videos. I will say that we're probably not going to put any, like, pictures or, like, clips of what happens, or, like... Because it looks very scary, and it's very graphic, and it's very, like, nasty. So if you want to see, like, how these things looks, there are videos all over YouTube that you can watch about it. So be warned, though. Like I said, they're pretty nuts. So there's a particular girl that I actually want to talk about. Her name is Gabby, and we can probably put her the exact YouTube video that I'm talking about, where she talks about her experience in McKamey Manor. I think that when she went, it was in like 2014 or 2013 or around then. And at that time, his manor was going viral. It was even on the news for some places. And that's where she had seen it, was on the news. And she likes, like, horror stuff. Like, she's always loved haunted houses. It wasn't really portrayed as, like, what it is today. So to her, it was kind of like, okay, this is the most, like, extreme version of, like, a haunted house. Like, I want to do this. She wanted to get that, you know, adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And so Gabby, she signs up for it. I believe there was a wait list. And then I think she had joined, like, Russ's Facebook group or something. And I don't know who messaged who first, but at some point, he had told her that she could actually skip the wait list, and he had like a free opening for tomorrow, which I don't know. That seems kind of like weird and questionable to me.
I heard that the
And
wait list isn't actually that big. Like, it's not
I've
big at
heard that
all.
too. I've heard that like he like might be misrepresenting those numbers just to make it like, which I look, I could easily see that being a thing. So yeah, like he told her like I have an opening tomorrow. Um, she says she has a family thing, and then he proceeds to message back, well, you know, this might not be a chance that you have again. I might not have an opening like this again. And so she ends up like, okay, well, I guess I'll cancel what I have to get done today and I'll go to this manor. She goes to this manor. She starts saying, like, before you even sign the waiver, because, like, it was her and a girl she's never met before. Because you can bring a partner or you can go by yourself. I heard that he also does, like, groups, which isn't always a good thing, as you'll learn later on when I talk about what happens. But she said before they're even, like, signing the waiver, he's like, not necessarily him. She didn't meet him right away because he has employees. And his employees at the time were teenagers. Again, this is like 2013, 2014. Were teenagers who weren't even actually getting paid, but Russ pays them with like a pizza party or something like that. So these teenagers are working freaking like what, long hour days for
Pizza.
some pizza? Yeah. So she says that like she was already kind of like getting like pushed around and like I don't know. It was just like aggressive already, but still nothing had happened. She said in the waiver at the time, I don't know if it was like 40 pages still, but it didn't have all the stuff that it has today. And it's definitely gotten worse since when she did it. And so eventually they signed the waiver. They put them in a van. I believe they like blindfold them or something. They go to the van, or they arrive at McKamey's place, and that's when they finally meet him. And when they meet him, I mean, there wasn't really anything interesting, I believe, from that point. He had like a flashlight, like headband thing on his head. And so then they start it, and she said that, I think she said she lasted like maybe, I don't know. Her answer was kind of a little gray for me on that, because she said she couldn't remember a lot of the details. She just remembered like flashes or like moments from it because she was mostly blindfolded. But she said that they like shoved her a lot, pushed her. She was choked, slammed into things. Um, they spit in her face, spit questionable liquids and substances in her mouth. She might have said she was gagged. I don't remember. I think she was. And then some of the ones that I remember the most were one where she said they put like bugs, insects all over you.
Ooh.
They put her in like what is that suit jacket called?
Straight jacket.
Yes. They put her in one of those, and then they put her in a cage. So she's in the cage, and I believe like the cage is kind of mostly filled up with water, and so she's like laying on her back. And as she's laying on her back, they also have like chains all over her neck. And so she's like having to force herself to like hold herself up because the cage is mostly filled with water. So, and because of the weight of the chain, she could easily like, it pulls her down and she could drown. And so she's trying to like hold herself up. And while she's doing that, they're also pouring buckets of water on her face. Yeah. So yeah, there was
That's waterboarding, isn't it? Isn't that's
basically. Yeah, basically. And she said that there was a lot of that. And why I said earlier how you can have like groups or like a partner. The thing with that is they force you, this haunted house, I'm gonna call it torture house. This torture house is meant to test more like, sure, physically, but like your psychological and like mental well-being. And that's one of the things you have to do before you even sign up, apparently, is you have to pass like a physical and like mental exam. uh you have, oh, I forgot to mention that, by the way, y'all. It's like you have to be at least 18 to 20 with parents permission, and then 21 and older to do it. But Yeah, so if you have a partner, they'll ask things like, "Do you want us to do this to her, or do you wanna do it?"
Oh, hell no.
Yeah. And so they kept asking the girl that was with her. Like, they asked her sometimes, but she said it was mostly the other girl that they were asking. And because at this point, like, you're being tortured and it's, like, scary and you're blindfolded, the other girl kept saying her. And so she kept having to take on a lot of the...
So she was basically Gabby was getting tortured by the friend she brought with her?
It wasn't her friend. She didn't know the girl.
Oh, okay, so it was just
Yeah.
her and another girl, and...
Yeah. Basically.
Ain't no way.
Right. So that's why it's not even necessarily, it might be, well, and she said that she was even, like, a lot of the time she was separated from the girl. It wasn't like she was just sitting there with her.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the roles are reversed, even if you're the person making that decision, like, that still takes a toll on you mentally, the fact that you're doing that. So
Yeah.
that's some of the things. I heard that she said that there were some points where, or there was one point where she goes into, they're in his kitchen, and the task is that they need to find these certain items. And she said that she had a weird feeling because that's not a form of torture to be, like, looking for something. It feels almost easy. And so she knew something felt weird about that. One of the actors, like, jumps out and scares her, grabs her by the head or the neck and slams her into, McKamey had do you know when you go to the store and there's, like, an ice cream thing that you could slide open to grab?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
He had one of
like
those.
a freezer.
Yes, and they, like, slammed her into it. It's filled, she said it was filled almost fully with, like, hot water. She gets put into it, and then when she's in it, they close the lid. And she has to, like force her head up so she can breathe. And then in between, they'll open the lid and shove her head down. Yeah. So that was probably some of the, like, most extreme examples that I found from hers. And she had said that it's not even as bad as it is. Like, her experience isn't even the worst of what it became, because Russ continually kept, like, trying to push the limits. So that was some of the things. Yeah, and definitely, like, I've heard things where he puts them in coffins to close, I don't know. What is it called? When you put somebody in, like, a confined space, claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic. Yeah.
So stuff like that. And eventually so at the very end, he asked, like, how it was, and she was still in a form of, like, shock. So when you have a camera in your face and you've been going through, like, hours of, like, torture, she's like, yeah, like, it was really good. And she wasn't necessarily lying. Like, she didn't feel like anything he did was wrong per se. And so she was kind of being genuine. But it was over time that she realized that, like,
she was actually tortured.
Yeah, and she was in, oh my gosh, can you hear that?
No.
That thunder? Oh my goodness, it's real loud, y'all. But yeah, over time that she kind of, like, came back into touch with reality and realized, like, this was wrong. She actually went on to work for Russ as one of his Facebook admins. And so she attests, because they had, like, a pretty cool relationship. She said that even during the haunting or whatever, he, like, in between rooms, they would have, like, pizza and, like real conversations with him. And then when it's time to go into the next room, it was like a switch, and he was right back into character. And so they're, like, screaming in your face, like, all that.
So there were breaks in between the torture.
I guess, but I don't imagine they were long. Yeah, I guess enough for them to, like, eat or something. So she had, like, kind of like a cool relationship with him, I guess. And then, yeah, like, she said when she was, like, a admin of his Facebook group, it started to just be constant drama, and she wasn't really liking it anymore. He just wanted them to, like, attack people who disagreed, telling them to, like, they need to be careful on, like, who they let in. And so, yeah, now today she doesn't, like, obviously she's not for it.
Yeah, so I have a question. I don't know if you know, is the haunted house, is it just his house?
Mm-hmm. She said that, like, in the rooms, per se, so he goes to, like, it's, like, even his garage, his backyard, just, like, in his house, his front yard.
Okay.
So it's, like, that, but I've also heard some things that in current day, a lot of the time, he doesn't even make it into his house, like, it's
Yeah, it's
just,
just
like,
his backyard.
yeah, or some, yeah. I've heard things like that, too, so I don't know how accurate it is. But that goes on to say, like, with what you said, that yes, like, apparently you're not allowed to touch or, like, touch any of his actors or the people that are working with him. That's what he calls them, actors.
You can't fight them. You can't like throw
touch
hands.
them. You can't touch them. You can't, like, I believe you can't talk to them unless you're, like, spoken to. And then, yeah, if you swear, he docks off, like, $500. That's ridiculous. But yeah, so he has, like, his own, like, strict rules with it too. Yeah, and then today I've heard, like, yeah, it's even, like, worse. It's just crazy to me that there are people that go out there and do this. Like, I know that they use shock collars. I've heard things where they've, like, I don't know if they've broken bones, but they can.
Yes,
one lady was apparently hospitalized. I haven't heard that anyone's died, per se. But
I definitely feel like there's some stuff that we don't know about just because there's the whole hard drive talk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Have you heard about that? Mm-mm. So I guess Russ had a hard drive that was like filled with like videos of all of the people that have been tortured, and it was stolen. And he has made it known that he doesn't want it like out in the world.
Really? No, I haven't heard about that.
Just because of what's on there. But he seems pretty confident that no one's going to release it. But yeah, it's a hard drive that's like full of videos of things that happen there. And it's been talked about that it's full of stuff that like could get him like in a lot of trouble.
Really?
Yeah. Just a lot of like bone breaking, like really freaking people up.
That's crazy. And that's why it's like, I don't know. Like, I personally don't know. I don't know. I don't think that that should be up and running. I just, especially if you're someone who's like disregarding people's safe words, like,
yes.
I don't know why anyone would want to do that, though. That's just so bizarre to me. If you go on his website to sign up for this wait list, his website, it looks pretty, like, first of all, it looks bad. It just, like the wording color and all that, like, if you look at it, you would think that, like, a freaking teenager made it. It looks very not professional at all.
Oh, no, it does not look professional.
Yeah, you see what I'm talking about? Yeah, it does not look professional at all. Yeah, I don't know. But his wife said, because apparently I don't know if his wife from, like, before, if he used to be married or if he's still married, but she said that he'll, like, rewatch the videos and footage that he takes, and, like, while he's watching it, like, he's laughing, because he says that he wants to make people laugh and he just wants to entertain people. And so it's kind of crazy to me that he thinks that it's funny. Because I don't. Like, when I've watched some of these videos, it's, like, off-putting, and I'm a spooky girl. I like spooky things. This doesn't fall into that for me. He even has, like, animatronics, apparently. I've heard that he makes himself. It's so weird.
I just couldn't. I don't think there's enough money in the world that could make me do this.
No, I would not sign up for this. I feel like this would probably take years off your life. Like, what do you get out of this? Nobody's ever
come out of there with gray hair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel like it's worth it. One thing that I do want to do real quick is, one of the things I looked at was the reviews for McKamey Manor. Most of them are not from people that actually did it.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's publicized, right? It's something people talk about all the time, so you're going to have a lot of opinions on it. But they were pretty messed up, but kind of funny. Okay. This one is a 5-star review from the Grizz Almighty. And this person says, "This place was amazing. I took my 9-year-old autistic niece, and she couldn't stop screaming because it was so fun. She shredded her vocal cords from all the excitement, so it was kind of hard to figure out what she was saying, but I could tell she wanted to stay there so bad, so I just let them have her. Although I found it weird, she tried running back to the car after I tried to leave. So I unfortunately had to ruin her dream of staying. Another 5 stars. Actually, wait, that one's kind of similar.
Is that the one with the picture of Joe Biden eating ice cream?
Yes. Yes. That one's kind of similar to the one that I just read, though. Everyone's talking about how they brought their freaking sister with autism or their mom's friend's son with Down syndrome. They're all just trolling on this feed. We celebrated, oh, this was from 21 hours ago. We celebrated a wedding there, and all 30 guests screamed with joy. After the celebration, I was just wondering where everyone had gone. Only the cars were there, but no one was there. Even my wife disappeared without a trace.
There's one that's 5-star, weird atmosphere, people just doing exercises in onesies on the front lawn, but great pizza.
That's funny.
Because there is a guy from last year, I think his name is Reckless Ben, and he's one of the ones who I had seen a couple of times since I started looking into it last night. Mm-hmm. And I guess he went in and he tried to do it, and they had him like dressed up in a onesie, like,
yeah.
And he lied about his like fears, and said,
I would.
Real. I think he said he was scared of like face paint and or something like that. And they put like face paint on him, and he was just kind of like laying there in a onesie in the front yard with like face, like his face was like covered in paint and glitter.
That's freaking funny. I've always thought about that. Even with is it Fear Factor or whatever, and they have to fill out those things. I've always thought about that. Like, why don't these people just lie? That's what I would do.
Why not just do Fear Factor? Like, this is torture. If you want, like, to just face your fears, do something like Fear Factor. Don't sign up to get your fucking teeth pulled out of your mouth. Mm-hmm.
I agree. No, I 100% agree.
1 star. I especially love the part where I stripped naked and rolled down a hill in a barrel.
Man, from Jack, 1 star. Man, this place reminds me of my childhood. I loved every moment. From the first step in the door, it really felt like I was with my family again. Oh, the naked and rolled down a hill in a barrel. When the barrel reached the pond, it reminded me of when my parents would bathe me as a youngling. They are so inclusive, they even hire people who are deaf. I know this because I said my safe word multiple times and wasn't let out for 36 hours. How progressive. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, I feel like there are even petitions online to shut this place down.
His neighbors don't want that there. Yeah.
Look, I wouldn't want to live next to somebody who was like that either. Or who did that. That's crazy. And yeah, for him, it's just entertainment. Like, he's not taking money for it or nothing.
That's why I feel like I'm not... The idea that this is because he just enjoys humiliating people, I could see that being real. Like, these people are signing up for it, and he's... Especially the, like, onesies.
Yeah.
The onesies, right. There's no amount of money that you could give me for that.
Nope. Well, and that's part of one of the things, like, people who are like me, people who like haunted houses or like spooky things, it's because you get that like adrenaline rush, and it's also a sense of like overcoming your fears and pushing your own limits and boundaries. But the comfort in a haunted house is obviously knowing at the end of the day you're going to be okay and you're going to be safe. I can't imagine doing this, that I would constantly be scared. Gabby talked about in one point in her YouTube video how there was one point where she had a panic attack. I think they had like locked her in like put her in a freezer and like locked it for a little bit or something. And yeah, she started to have a panic attack. And they asked her if she wanted to stop, and I think she said no.
I mean, that's you're agreeing to keep going. The only real big red flag is if they don't listen to safe words.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like it. I'll say that. I don't like it. I'm not fond of
Nope.
it. I won't say I'm for it, but
Nope.
if you're signing up for it, I don't.
You know what you're signing up for.
You do.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. I'm so surprised that that's able to run. That's like a thing, though.
Yeah. I'm surprised it's lasted this long.
Yeah,
Over
I
20
know.
years.
Yes. If it's from 2001, 23 years. Wait, am I 23? No, I'm 22. 22 years.
Oh
23
my
soon,
gosh.
y'all, in October. And you too, in October.
I'll be halfway to 30.
Well, let's not look at it like that. Ooh, 30, flirty, and thriving. You haven't
Real.
watched. Have you watched?
13 going on 30?
Yeah,
Yes.
you have. Okay.
What girl has not watched 13 going on 30?
The only reason I asked that was because I can't remember. Sometimes there are movies that I say, I'm like, what? You haven't watched that? And so I don't know which ones they were.
Yeah. Like
But
Dennis
I-
the Menace yesterday.
Mr. Wilson. Yeah. Oh, I love that movie.
So don't sign up for McKamey Manor unless you want to see your soul leave your body.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's so fascinating, though. It's like a rabbit hole of stuff. There's so many, like, survivors, quote unquote, that
Yeah.
you can watch on YouTube, y'all, if you want more of, like, a personal view to it, I guess. Insight. But, yeah. That's today's wrap up.
Well, thanks for listening to our podcast on something a little different today.
Let us know. I know a lot of people don't really comment, but if y'all like this stuff or not, it's cool to get some insight. So if you want to, feel free to give us some suggestions.
Definitely.
All right, thanks for watching, y'all. We'll see you next week. I don't know if we've figured out yet what we plan on doing for next week.
I don't think so. So I think it's going to be a surprise.
Yep, I guess so. Maybe we'll have our new name by then. We'll see.
Bye, guys.
Bye.